The room was vast, heavy with shadows and the low, terrified beep of a machine. She had been warned, don't ask too many questions. But when the dying billionaire, a legend with eyes like chipped granite, asked her, a simple nurse, the question, the air turned to ice. His voice, a dry, tired rasp, cut through the silence. Tell me the truth, he demanded. Are you pure? And Sonia, the girl who only knew how to heal the body, suddenly realized she had been summoned to face a soul far more broken than any she had ever seen. In the heart of Benin City, far from the hurried, loud pulse of the coast, lived a young woman named Sonia Richard. She was 24 years old, but the calm stillness around her made her seem ancient, or perhaps, simply untouched by the world's clamor. Sonia was a creature of routine and quiet grace. She rose with the dawn call, before the sun painted the sky gold and red. Her uniform, white, crisp, ironed with the precision of a prayer, was her second skin. Her simple life was her chosen fortress. She worked at St. Catherine's, a place of small miracles and quiet goodbyes. Her specialty was the Agbalagba unit, the geriatric ward. She loved the old ones, for they held the echoes of her own past, the deep, resonant voice of the grandmother who had raised her. Sonia, you have the hands of a healer, her grandmother had said, words she carried like a precious, unbreakable Igba calabash. Her work was her offering, her daily ritual against the noise of a world she found too fast, too loud, too fake. She avoided the rush of modern life, the amoebo gossip of the nurse's station, the frantic pursuit of love she saw in others. She waited for something real. She didn't know what real looked like, but she knew it wouldn't be found in a hurry. That Thursday morning, the silence was broken not by a siren, but by a summons. Matron Angela, a woman whose smile was as rare as rain in the dry season, looked unnerved. Sonia, my office. Now. Inside, the air was thick with a secret. The matron spoke of a special assignment, a patient not in the hospital, but a ghost of a man living behind high gates, Mr. Roy Leonard. A billionaire. A legend of oil and banks who had vanished 10 years ago. Now, he was dying, stage 4 heart failure, 2 months, maybe less. He wanted a private nurse. Young, quiet, and one who won't ask too many questions. The pay was a dizzying bounty, 10 times her monthly wage for 2 months of service. Sonia didn't care for the money, she cared for the why. Why her? You match the profile, the matron said. But as she heard the name, Roy Leonard, a chill, not of fear but of destiny, settled over her heart. The man was a myth, and she, a simple nurse, was being pulled into his final, whispered chapter. That night, she sat by her window, watching the Nigerian stars burn bright. The air was quiet, but her own heart beat a relentless gem rhythm. Just 2 months, she whispered to the darkness. That's all. But a deeper, knowing part of her sensed that her life was about to change forever, and she hadn't even begun to unpack. The journey to the Leonard mansion felt less like a drive and more like a passage into a different world. The black car with its tinted windows cut through the familiar clamor of Benin, shedding the vibrant colors and loud hawkers until the road became a silent, green tunnel. When they arrived, Sonia's breath caught. The gate was monumental, a wall of iron and thick stone that screamed "Keep out." It wasn't a home, it was a fortress, a prison built of pride and solitude. The mansion itself was a vast, gray edifice of tall, unsmiling windows. It held no warmth, no color, it was a tomb of expensive stone. A man in a tailored black suit, Henry, the butler, waited at the door, his face a perfect mask of polite indifference. "I'm Henry," he said, his voice flat. "Mr. Leonard's personal butler. You'll be staying in the East Wing." The tour was a slow, silent walk through long, sterile hallways. The house had no scent, no sound of life, only the cold, clean air that felt like a deliberate erasure of human memory. Henry stopped outside a large, imposing door. "He can be difficult," he warned, his voice a low, heavy bass. "Many before you didn't last. Whatever he says, do not take it personally. He's not used to kindness." Sonia, the quiet nurse, simply nodded. She knocked softly, a sound swallowed instantly by the heavy wood, and then opened the door. The master's suite was immense, the curtains drawn, muting the sun. A faint, rhythmic beep, the sound of a life being timed, came from the heart monitor. And there he was, Mr. Roy Leonard. He was silver-haired, rail-thin, with a face that looked carved from hardened wood. But it was his eyes that stopped her. They were not stone, but chips of granite, sharp and utterly without light. He turned his head slowly and studied her. "So," he rasped, his voice rough and tired. "They sent a child." Sonia walked in, her white shoes silent on the rug. "Good morning, sir. My name is Sonia Richard. I'm your new nurse." He grunted, a dry, cynical sound. "You look like you've never touched a man." She didn't flinch. She moved to check his foreline, her hands steady, betraying none of the tremor in her heart. "You don't talk much," he observed. "I speak when needed," she replied, her voice soft but firm. "Good. The last one talked too much. I fired her." He watched her for a long time, his eyes searching, sharp, and then he asked the question that echoed in the vast, empty room, the question that was a demand of the soul. "Tell me the truth," he said. "Are you pure?" Sonia froze, her pulse suddenly a furious bird trapped in her chest. "Are you pure?" She looked him in the eye, the granite meeting the calm, clear water. "What?" she asked. "You heard me." She held his gaze. "Why does it matter?" Mr. Leonard didn't smile, but a shadow of something, perhaps memory, perhaps pain, crossed his face. "Maybe it doesn't," he whispered. "But maybe it does." She finished checking the equipment, her mind racing. This was not the question of a patient seeking medical care, it was the desperate plea of a man facing the end, terrified of what he might carry with him into the void. She asked about breakfast, he asked for silence. As she turned to leave, he called out her name. "Sonia." She stopped. "You don't know it yet," he said, staring at the high ceiling. "But you're going to be the last person I trust before I die." Her breath caught. She stepped out, closing the door on the immense silence, her heart beating louder than it had in years. This man, this house, this job, it felt like a collision with destiny. Downstairs, Henry was waiting with a tea tray. "He'll eat if he feels like it," the butler said. "He didn't touch his dinner last night." Sonia took the tray. "I'll try." Henry looked at her, a flicker of interest in his practiced indifference. "You don't seem nervous anymore." "I am still nervous, Henry," she replied. "I just hide it better now." He gave a small nod of approval. "Good. That's the only way to survive in this house." She returned to the master suite. Mr. Leonard was in the same position, his eyes on the ceiling. "You came back," he stated. "I said I would," she answered, setting the tray down. "People say many things," he muttered. "But most of them lie." Sonia ignored the bait. She pulled the curtains slightly, letting a soft, filtered light enter the room, just enough to reveal the deep lines of weariness on his face. "Too bright," he complained. She adjusted it back. She checked his vitals, a silent professional. "Do you always work like this?" he asked. "Like what?" "Like you're not afraid?" She met his gaze. "I've seen death before. It doesn't scare me." "And what about me? Do I scare you?" "No." He gave a slow, dry smile. "Then maybe you're not very smart." She lifted the tray. "Please try to eat something, sir. If you don't eat, your body will fail faster than it already is. And I didn't come here to watch you waste away without trying." He stared at her, challenging her resolve. "Do you think you can save me?" Sonia held his gaze, her voice low. "No, but I can help you live better while you're still here." He looked at the tray, then slowly, with great effort, sat up. He took a piece of toast, his hand trembling, but he stopped her when she tried to assist. I can do it. He took a single bite, closed his eyes, then looked at her again. Where are you from? Married? Boyfriend? The questions were intrusive, personal, a way to chip away at her stillness. She frowned. That's personal. He smirked. Everything's personal when you're dying. I'm not here for your entertainment, she said, refilling his teacup. I know, he replied. You're here because I'm dying, but that doesn't mean we can't talk. I asked for someone like you because none of the others had what you have. He paused, his sharp eyes pinning her. Stillness. Sonia felt something shift deep inside. It was an accurate word, one that saw beyond the white uniform. He pointed to a chair. Sit down. I want to look at you. She hesitated, then walked over and sat. I'm not here for your entertainment, she repeated. I know, he said. You remind me of someone. Who? She asked quietly. My first wife. Elena. His lips parted slightly. I thought you never married. That's what the world thinks. That's what I let them think. He turned his face towards the window, a far-off look in his granite eyes. She was soft, quiet, just like you. She loved gardens. But I got greedy, chasing bigger things, money, fame, power. One day, she packed her bag and left. Said she couldn't watch me become a stranger. His voice cracked, not with sadness, but with the profound shame of regret. Sonia didn't press, she simply waited, her stillness becoming a quiet sanctuary for his confession. I asked if you were pure because I wanted to see if there was still someone in this world who hasn't been touched by all this filth. Someone who still believes in simple things. He reached under his pillow and pulled out a small, worn notebook. The cover was plain, the edges frayed. He handed it to her. What is this? My list, he said. She opened it. The handwriting was shaky but readable. Walk outside. Eat roasted corn. Watch children play. Hear someone sing without a microphone. Feel the sun on my face. Apologize to my son. Hold someone's hand. Die without fear. Sonia read the list twice. It was not a billionaire's bucket list. It was a list for the forgotten. She closed the book gently. Then let's start with the first one, she said, her voice carrying a soft challenge. You want to walk outside? Let's go. He let out a dry, disbelieving laugh. Girl, I haven't walked more than 10 steps in years. You said you wanted to, she replied. That means you're not dead yet. His smile was small, weak, but real. You're brave, he said. Sonia shrugged. No. I just think if you want to feel alive, you have to move. Tomorrow, he conceded. We'll try tomorrow. As she walked to the door, he called her name again. Sonia. Yes, sir. Don't fall in love with me. Her face went still. I'm not here for love, she said. Good, he replied. Because I'm not here to be saved. She left, but inside her, something had started. Not love, not pity, but a crack in the cold wall around a dying man's heart. And she, the quiet nurse, had been the first to knock. The house felt colder in the pre-dawn hours. Sonia sat on her bed, her suitcase still half-packed. She felt the heavy silence of the mansion, a quiet that was not peace but a thick, oppressive air holding generations of unsaid things. She was a healer of wounds, but here, the wound was the soul itself, and the patient had tried to push her away with a warning, don't fall in love with me. She understood the warning. He was a broken man, and a dying man. He wanted to ensure she saw him only as a task, not a tragedy. But Sonia was not a person who fled from pain. She had sat by countless bedsides, witnessed countless final regrets, and she would not turn away now. Downstairs, Henry was in the kitchen, meticulously arranging his tea tray. "How long have you worked here?" Sonia asked. 2 years, he replied, without looking up. "I was here before the walls got this quiet." "Why did you stay?" Henry paused, a brief flicker of memory in his eyes. "Someone had to," he said finally. "Everyone else left." He then reached into a drawer and pulled out a plain white envelope sealed with a red wax stamp. "For you. Mr. Leonard gave it to me last night." Sonia took it, her fingers brushing the stiff wax. She had never received a letter from a patient, least of all this one. She sat down, carefully peeled the seal, and unfolded the paper. "Sonia, if you're reading this, it means you didn't run away after day one. That is impressive. I don't trust easily, but I want to believe you're different. Enclosed is my list, not just the short version. The full one. You don't need to finish it. You only need to decide, will you try? If the answer is yes, keep reading. If the answer is no, leave this house. You don't owe me anything, and I don't want pity. But if you choose to stay, follow one rule: do not fall in love with me. Do not see me as anything more than a man who wasted his life and now wants to die with clean hands. You are pure. Stay that way. R.W." Sonia's eyes focused on the last sentence. It was not flattery, it was a desperate plea from a man who saw in her something he had destroyed in himself. She turned the page over. "Sit on the front porch and watch the rain. Dance to a vinyl record. Hear a lullaby. Say sorry to someone I hurt. Watch the sunrise without coughing. Laugh without faking it. Forgive myself. Be remembered for something kind." This was not the list of a rich man, it was the confession of a broken man. She folded the letter, slipped it into her pocket, and walked toward his room. Her answer was already certain. She would stay. She would try. At 9 a.m., Sonia entered Mr. Leonard's room. He was sitting up, watching the clouds roll in, the air already heavy with the promise of rain. "You gave me a letter," she stated quietly. "I read it." He finally looked at her. "Did you understand it?" She met his gaze. "Yes. I'm staying." He closed his eyes for a moment, an almost imperceptible gesture of relief, and then opened them. "I made that list 10 years ago. I've never shown it to anyone." "Why now?" she asked, pulling the stool closer. "Because I'm dying. And you're the first person who feels like they treat it seriously." She pointed to the second item on the list. "Tell me about this one." "Eat roasted corn." He gave a weak laugh. "You noticed that?" "I love roasted corn," she said simply. "I haven't had it in 20 years, he confessed. Used to buy it from this woman near the train station back when I still took trains." "Why did you stop?" "Too rich. Too busy. Too proud." "I could get you some," she offered. "Maybe this weekend." He chuckled. "What's next? You'll take me to dance in the street?" She tilted her head. "It's on the list, isn't it?" He gave her a long, appraising look. "You're dangerous, girl." "I'm a nurse," she replied. "Same thing." The rain started, a gentle tapping against the window. Sonia stood and adjusted his pillow. "Tell me about your son," she asked quietly. His eyes narrowed. "I never said I had a son." Sonia didn't flinch. "It's on the list, say sorry to someone I hurt. You paused yesterday when you said it." He looked away. "I had a son. Jacob." "Had?" "I don't know if he's alive or dead." Sonia felt a knot in her chest. 27 years? I chose business over family, over everything. He looked at me one day and said, "You don't care about anything but your money." I told him he was right. Sonia simply said, "You regret it." "I regret everything," he whispered. "Do you want to see him?" "I just want him to know I'm sorry." Sonia made no promise, but she knew what her next task was. Later, Henry gave her Mr. Leonard's old family contacts. "He never asked me to reach out," Henry said. "Why now?" Sonia answered with a profound truth. "Because he's not asking for healing. He's asking for peace." The next morning was a rebirth. The rain had washed the world clean, and the sunlight poured through Sonia's window, a gentle, golden invitation. She thought of the list, the quiet things, the things most people forget to ask for until the end. She was ready. In the master suite, Mr. Leonard was sitting on the edge of the bed, a thin robe over his clothes, his cane gripped tightly. "You're early," he said. "You're dressed," she countered, surprised. "Took me 30 minutes just to sit up," he muttered. "But I'm not going to die in this bed." After a small breakfast, she helped him to his feet. He leaned on the cane, his other hand reaching for her wrist. It was cold, thin, but surprisingly strong. "My legs are weak," he warned. "Then lean on me," she said. "I don't need to carry you. I just need to walk beside you." He stared at her, then nodded. "Let's go." The walk through the hallway was agonizingly slow, a quiet, two-person dance. At the front door, Henry stood ready, opening it slowly to let the full force of the sunlight spill in. Mr. Leonard winced, his face tightening. "It's too bright." "We can go back in," Sonia offered. "No," he insisted quickly. "I want to feel it." Sonia guided him outside, his cane tapping lightly on the stone. He paused on the porch, inhaling deeply. The air smelled of grass, wet soil, and distant flowers. Birds chirped, a forgotten symphony. Mr. Leonard closed his eyes. "I forgot what this feels like," he whispered. She helped him to the bench beside the neglected garden. He leaned back, his eyes closed. "When I was young, I never sat still," he confessed. "I thought sitting was for old people, for the weak. I used to laugh at men who sat on porches. Said I'd never waste my time like that." He opened his eyes, looking at the overgrown hedges. "But this is the first time I've actually seen my garden." "It needs care," Sonia observed softly. "Just like me," he replied. As a cool wind blew, something happened. He began to cry. Not a loud, shameful wail, but a quiet, tired weeping that carried the weight of every lost year, every broken promise. Sonia didn't speak. She sat beside him and let the old, forgotten king mourn his lost kingdom. When the crying subsided, Mr. Leonard wiped his face, his movements jerky. "Sorry." "You don't have to be," she said. "I haven't cried in years," he muttered. "That's not something to be proud of," she told him gently. He looked at her, truly looking. "You're not like anyone I've ever known. That's because you've kept everyone else outside." He let out a dry, acknowledging laugh. "Touché." He then asked her an incredible question. "Do you know how many houses I own?" Sonia shook her head. 17, across 5 countries. "Ask me how many people live in them." "How many?" "None." She let the crushing weight of that isolation settle. "I built castles," he said. "But no one wanted to stay in them with me." "Maybe it's not too late," Sonia suggested. He turned to her, surprise in his eyes. "You really believe that?" "I believe people can change," she said. "Even if it's just one thing, one moment. I don't deserve that kind of mercy." "Maybe not," she agreed gently. "But you're still human, and that means you still have a chance." He looked away, blinking hard. Then, quietly, he said, "Number 2. What? Number 2 on the list. Roasted corn. She smiled. You remembered? I never forgot. I just stopped admitting what I missed. Sonia stood. I'll get it for you. Where? There's a woman who sells some outside the hospital. I'll go tonight. I want it burnt at the edges, he specified. Sonia smiled wider. I'll tell her exactly that. Later that day, Sonia returned to the mansion, the air in the car carrying the sweet, smoky scent of charcoal and roasting maize. She carried a small brown paper bag holding one fresh roasted corn cob, golden with just enough char, just as he requested. She entered his room. He was lying on the bed, eyes open, but he looked up at the bag, and a flicker of childlike excitement lit his granite eyes. I brought something, she said. She pulled out the corn, its warmth a stark contrast to the cold air of the room. He sat up with effort, his eyes fixed on the small treasure. She placed a napkin on his lap. He reached for it slowly, holding it carefully. Then he took one bite. The crunch echoed in the quiet room. He closed his eyes and smiled. For real. I feel like I'm 20 again, he whispered, a sound of profound contentment. Sonia laughed softly, a rare and genuine sound in that house. Sometimes the small things do. He took another bite, then looked at her. I never thought corn could make me feel alive. Number 3, he then announced. Watch children play. Sonia tilted her head. There's a school 2 streets from here. He smiled. Tomorrow. Only if you're strong enough, she countered. I will be, he insisted. As she tidied the tray, he touched her wrist, his cold fingers closing on her skin. She looked at him. Thank you, he said. For what? For not treating me like a project. For seeing me. Sonia just nodded, holding his gaze. In that moment, a quiet understanding passed between them. It was not love, nor pity. It was simply human recognition, and it was stronger than anything that had passed between them before. The next day, the schoolyard was a riot of color, sound, and unfettered joy. Sonia stood just inside the massive iron gate with Mr. Leonard, who leaned heavily on her arm, his breathing shallow. He watched the children run, scream, and laugh, their bodies moving with an ease he had lost long ago. I used to laugh like that, he said softly. I believe you, Sonia replied. No, you don't, he countered, still watching. But it's fine. He pointed to a tall boy with dirty knees chasing a ball. That one. He looks like Jacob when he was 9. Sonia's heart tightened. I thought about him last night. Mr. Leonard's hand trembled on her arm. I dream about him sometimes. But in my dreams, he never speaks. Do you think he'll listen if we find him? I don't know, he whispered. But I want to ask. The walk back to the house was exhausting for him. He was pushing himself, choosing life over rest. Once inside, Sonia helped him back to bed. You're pushing yourself, she said quietly. I'm living, he insisted, his eyes stubborn. There's a difference between living and rushing. I don't have time to wait. He fell asleep quickly. That night, Sonia stayed up, tracing the items on his full list. Laugh without faking it. Forgive myself. She couldn't remember the last time he had offered a genuine, unguarded laugh. She wanted to hear it. It was near midnight when a loud thud tore through the silence of the mansion. Sonia shot out of bed, her heart hammering. She ran down the hallway. Mr. Leonard's door was open. Inside, the room was dark. The bedside lamp had fallen, the water tray was scattered, and Mr. Leonard had collapsed beside the dresser, a pale, shaking heap on the floor. Mr. Leonard, she cried, rushing to him, dropping to her knees. His pulse was racing, his breathing fast and shallow. His eyes were glazed over. "Can you hear me?" He blinked, barely. She lifted his head gently onto her lap, his body cold against her uniform. "You're okay. Just breathe. I'm here." She moved with the decisive speed of a trained professional, grabbing the emergency kit, checking the erratic heart monitor, applying the oxygen mask. Henry rushed in, eyes wide. "What happened?" "He collapsed. Get the hospital on standby, but I want to stabilize him here first." Henry nodded and ran to the phone. Sonia pressed a cold cloth to his forehead, her voice a steady, soft anchor in the chaos. "Don't leave yet," she whispered. His hand twitched. He murmured, barely audible. "Thought I could reach the window." Sonia blinked, confusion overriding her medical focus. "Why?" "I wanted to see the moon." She held his hand tighter. "Next time, tell me. Don't go alone." He coughed, weaker now. "You're not going to die tonight. Do you hear me?" His eyes opened a little. "Bossy, always." They got him back into the bed, stabilized. By 1:30 a.m., his breathing was calm, his eyes closed. His fingers were still curled gently around Sonia's. She sat on the stool, holding his hand. "He almost left," Henry whispered when he returned with fresh tea. "He went looking for the moon," Sonia whispered back. "He's not afraid to die, Henry. He's afraid of dying alone." Henry sighed. "Aren't we all?" Sonia walked to the window, opened it slightly, and let the moonlight pour in, touching the bed with silver. "Now you don't have to go anywhere to see it." By morning, Mr. Leonard was weaker but stable. Sonia, who hadn't slept, was still in the same chair. "You're stubborn," he said weakly when he opened his eyes. "So are you," she replied. He smiled faintly. "How bad was it?" "You nearly stopped breathing. You tried to walk across the room in the dark." "I used to do that all the time." "You're not who you used to be." "I know." She leaned forward. "But you're still here, and that means something." He turned to her, his voice low. "I didn't want you to see me like that." "I looked weak." Sonia shook her head. "No. You looked human." He stared at her, the simple words striking him deep. She leaned back, exhausted but calm. "Can I ask you something?" "Why me? Why did you ask for a nurse like me?" He looked away for a long moment, then answered, his voice a profound confession. "Because I've been surrounded by power my whole life, but I've never been around peace. You walked into my life like you had nothing to prove. You didn't try to impress me. You didn't try to fix me." "I'm not here to fix you," she said gently. "I'm here to stay until the end." His voice cracked slightly. "You don't know what that means to me." "I think I do," she said, placing her hand gently on his. Later, before she finally went to rest, she updated the list, "See the moon again." Done. She paused at the next one, "Apologized to my son." She reached for the contact file Henry had given her. At the bottom, under old letters, was a single phone number, Jacob Leonard. She didn't call. Not yet. But she held the number, believing the day was coming soon. That night, Mr. Leonard asked for something entirely new, something that wasn't on the list, yet somehow, was the very essence of it. "Sing to me," he said. Sonia blinked. "What?" He smiled gently. "I haven't heard a lullaby since my mother died." Sonia hesitated. "I don't sing well." "I don't care." So, she did. Softly, quietly, she hummed a lullaby her own grandmother used to sing, a simple, melodic tune from the heart of Benin, a song that spoke of safety and the endless love of the ancestors. Her voice was low, steady, a river of comfort. Mr. Leonard closed his eyes and let the song carry him away, his face relaxing into the first true peace she had seen on it. Sonia watched him, and for the first time, she didn't feel like just a nurse. She felt like someone fulfilling a destiny. The house had changed. The silence was not cold anymore, it was warm, lighter, a quiet that came not from emptiness, but from a profound understanding. The walls no longer whispered old secrets, they simply held the space for a life nearing its final, necessary grace. 2 days passed. Mr. Leonard was weaker, but clearer. He let her open the windows, welcomed the sun, and spoke of his past with a detached honesty. He was no longer fighting the process. That morning, as Sonia brought his tea, he was staring at the ceiling, silent. "I was thinking about my final wish," he said. Sonia pulled the stool closer. "Which one?" "The one that's not on the list." "There's more?" "There's always more," he said softly. "But this one I never wrote down because I was scared it wouldn't happen." Sonia reached for his hand. "Tell me." He was silent for a long time. Then he whispered, "I want to die holding the hand of someone who has never lied to me." Sonia's throat tightened. "I've been lied to my whole life," he continued, his eyes back on the ceiling. "By friends, by workers, by people who wanted my money, even by family. I can't take that into death with me." "You won't," Sonia said softly. "I've lied to people too, more than I can count. I've ruined things that were pure. I did all that because I thought power made me untouchable." She nodded slowly, her hand still holding his. "I'm not asking to be remembered as a saint. I just want to go in peace. And for that, I need someone beside me I can trust." Sonia looked at him with steady, clear eyes. "I'll be there. I won't let you go alone. Promise me." She leaned forward. "I promise." "Thank you," he whispered. That afternoon, Sonia went to the garden, needing the air and the sun. The weight of his promise, "Someone who has never lied to me," was heavy on her soul. She wasn't just a nurse anymore, she was the keeper of his final truth. Henry found her there. He held a small, worn wooden box. "He asked me to give you this," Henry said. He said, "It's from a long time ago." Sonia took the box. Inside was a photo, a younger Mr. Leonard, full of life, standing beside a beautiful woman holding a baby. They were smiling. The baby had soft curls and big, wondering eyes. "That's his wife," Henry said quietly. "And Jacob." "You were trying to find the boy," Henry noted. "I think we have a lead." "Where?" "A mechanic shop in a small town 2 hours from here. The name and age match. It could be him." Sonia closed the box, holding it tight to her chest. "I need to go." "What will you say?" Henry asked. "The truth," she replied. The drive was long, the photo box clutched in her hand. She thought of the confrontation, the anger, the pain that would be waiting for her. She had no right to demand anything, but she had a duty to a dying man's peace. 16, Hammeran Wrench Jacob's Auto Repair. The small town was quiet, dusty, and full of the slow rhythm of the heartland. The car stopped outside a modest garage with a faded sign, Jacob's Auto Repair. Sonia stepped out, her heart pounding. Inside, a man with short, practical hair and grease on his hands was wiping down a tool. He looked up, his eyes immediately wary. "Are you Jacob Leonard?" The man narrowed his eyes. "Who's asking?" Sonia held out the photo. Jacob stared at it. His face cycled through shock, then a profound, cold anger, then silence. "I don't know who you are," he said, his voice flat and hard. "But you know who he is." "He sent you?" "No," Sonia said. "He didn't ask. I came on my own." Jacob picked up a wrench and started working again, his movements violent. I don't want to talk about him. Sonia stayed where she was. I understand. But he's dying. Jacob froze. She repeated it, softer. He's dying. Jacob's jaw clenched. I haven't seen him in 27 years. You think that matters now? He doesn't want your forgiveness, Sonia said. He just wants to say sorry. Jacob laughed bitterly. He should have said that before. He's scared, she said. He just wants peace. Jacob slammed the tool down. And what about my peace? Do you know what it's like to grow up thinking you weren't good enough for your own father? To watch your mother cry herself to sleep? I'm not here to defend him, Sonia said. He was wrong. I know that. You know that. But right now, he's a man about to take his last breath. And all he's asking is to look you in the eye one last time. Jacob's eyes filled with sudden, hot tears. He turned away. I don't know, he whispered. Sonia took a deep breath. You don't have to love him. You don't even have to forgive him. Just let him say goodbye. She left the photo on the workbench. Then, she turned and walked away, her mission fulfilled, the result left to the man whose heart had been broken decades ago. Sonia returned to the silent mansion. Mr. Leonard was asleep, his chest rising and falling slowly. She sat beside him and took his hand. He opened his eyes a few minutes later. You look tired, he whispered. I had to go somewhere. Far? Yes. For me. For your peace. He stared at her, searching her eyes. What did you do? I told the truth. He closed his eyes, a single tear sliding down his cheek. I'm scared, Sonia. I know. I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of being forgotten. She held his hand tighter. You won't be. He turned his face toward her. Stay with me tonight? Of course. And that night, as he drifted off to sleep, he whispered one more thing, a final, profound confession into the darkness. You're the last good thing that ever happened to me. The next morning, the rain returned, soft, steady drops, tapping gently against the glass, a rhythmic drum of anticipation. Sonia stood by Mr. Leonard's bed. He was holding on, weaker but determined. She hadn't left his side all night, the photo of young Jacob still imprinted on her mind. Henry came in with the breakfast tray. He hasn't woken up yet, she said softly. He's been holding on longer than I expected. Sonia looked up. I think he's waiting for someone. He needs closure. That's the only thing left. Henry just placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and left the room. At 10:43 a.m., there was a knock on the front door. Sonia didn't hear the knock, but she heard the footsteps in the hallway. They were heavy, nervous, unsure, not Henry's slow, even steps. She stood up from the chair and turned toward the door just as it opened slowly. A man stood there, in his 40s, his clothes soaked from the rain, his eyes carrying the weight of decades. Jacob Leonard. He looked at Sonia. She didn't speak. He stepped in quietly and looked at the man in the bed. His breath caught in his throat. Mr. Leonard stirred. His eyes blinked open, confused at first. Then he saw the figure standing beside him. His lips parted slightly. Jacob. Jacob's jaw tightened. Mr. Leonard reached out a trembling hand. You came. Jacob didn't touch him. I wasn't sure you would, Mr. Leonard whispered. I almost didn't come. I wouldn't have blamed you. I hated you for years. I hated myself longer. Jacob looked down. I remember the day you left. I know, Mr. Leonard whispered. You didn't even say goodbye to Mom. Mr. Leonard's eyes watered. I thought I'd come back. I thought I had more time. She waited for you, Jacob said, his voice raw. She waited every birthday. Every Christmas. She died waiting. Mr. Leonard closed his eyes tightly. I failed her. I failed both of you. You don't get to just say sorry and expect it to go away, Jacob said, his voice rising, years of bitterness and pain pouring out. I don't expect anything. You destroyed our family. Yes, Mr. Leonard said quietly. Jacob's voice cracked. You ruined everything. I know. Tears rolled down Mr. Leonard's cheeks. I'm not asking for your love. I'm not asking to be forgiven. I just wanted to see your face again. Before I go. Jacob looked away. I wanted to hate you, he said. I thought if I ever saw you again, I'd walk out or scream or curse. He looked back at the frail, small man in the bed. But seeing you like this, so small, so broken. He turned back. I don't feel hate anymore. Just sadness. That's more than I deserve. Jacob stepped closer. He looked at the tubes, the wires, the thin, dying man. He reached out and took his father's hand. Mr. Leonard flinched in surprise, but Jacob held it firm. I'm not here to heal the past, Jacob said. I just want to be here now. Mr. Leonard sobbed quietly. Sonia, near the wall, silently wiped her eyes. They sat together for the next hour. Jacob talked about his garage, his two sons, the way he taught them to fix engines with their bare, honest hands. Mr. Leonard smiled faintly. Sounds like you became a better man than I ever was, he said. I became what you weren't, Jacob replied. That was the goal. Then I'm proud. I wish I had more time, Mr. Leonard said. Jacob looked at him. You don't. I know. But you have this. This moment. Mr. Leonard squeezed his son's hand. Will you stay a little longer? Jacob looked at the clock, then at his father. Yes. Later in the evening, the rain stopped. Mr. Leonard asked Sonia to open the window. He closed his eyes and let the cool breeze touch his face. Sonia, he said softly. She came to his side. Thank you. You saw him again. He turned his head weakly toward her. Can I ask you one more thing? She nodded. When the time comes, will you hold my hand? Sonia sat beside him. I'll be here. He looked at Jacob, who sat quietly across the room. I lied so much in my life, Mr. Leonard said. But not now, not with you. You were the only honest thing I had left. Sonia reached for his hand. I'll stay until the end. And in that moment, he looked at peace. The house settled into a final, profound quiet. It was a silence that was soft, like a gentle blanket pulled over a sacred space, a world preparing for a final grace note. Sonia stood outside Mr. Leonard's door, knowing in her chest that the end was near. When she opened the door, the room was dim, the curtains allowing the garden breeze to carry the faint scent of flowers Henry had planted near the walkway. Mr. Leonard lay still, his chest rising and falling slowly, his hands resting gently on the blanket. You came early, he said, his voice thin and raspy. I couldn't sleep, she replied, sitting beside him. Me neither. She helped him sip water. Pain? Not much anymore. It's more tiredness. Sonia reached for his hand. It was colder now. I'm here, she said softly. I know. They sat in silence. Then he turned to her. It's not just Jacob I want to say goodbye to. Sonia blinked. What do you mean? He smiled faintly. You, Sonia. You came into this house when I was just a shell. You didn't run. You didn't ask for anything. You just gave. She swallowed her rising tears. I didn't do much. You did everything, he whispered. He coughed, deeper this time. Sonia helped him sit up, rubbing his back gently until the spasm passed. When he lay back, his breathing was strained. Do you want me to call Jacob now? He shook his head. In a minute. Just stay with me first. She stayed. She held his hand. She watched his eyes flicker open and closed like a candle almost out of wax. Sonia, he said again, barely louder than a breath. Yes. I'm not afraid anymore. You shouldn't be. He blinked slowly. Promise me something. When it's time, don't let go of my hand. Sonia's eyes filled. I won't. He closed his eyes, a final tear slipping from the corner. I never had a daughter, he said quietly. But if I did, I would have wanted her to be just like you. Sonia couldn't speak. Her hand trembled as she held his tighter. You were my last gift, he whispered. She reached for the bell and called Henry. Moments later, Henry stepped in quietly, followed by Jacob. Jacob walked to the other side of the bed and looked down at his father. Mr. Leonard opened his eyes one last time. He looked at his son. Jacob reached for his hand and gave it a firm, steady grip. Then Mr. Leonard turned his head slightly toward Sonia. He saw her face. He saw her tears, and he smiled. His lips moved. Thank you. Sonia leaned down and kissed his forehead gently. Then they all sat with him. No one spoke. The moment required no more noise. It needed peace. He passed quietly. Sonia was the last person he looked at. Jacob was the last person he forgave. Henry stood in the corner, head bowed, the old photo of Elena and baby Jacob resting on the dresser. The doctor came later. Sonia stepped aside while the body was cared for. When it was done, she walked back into the room one last time. On the bed, under the pillow, she found a folded note with her name on it. She opened it. Sonia, you fulfilled my final wish. You were honest. You were kind. You were the last thing I never knew I needed. Don't change for this world. They don't make people like you anymore. Goodbye. R. Sonia folded the letter slowly, tucked it into her bag, and walked out. She didn't cry. This goodbye was not about sorrow, it was about completion. It was about peace. The funeral was small, private, held with quiet dignity. By request, Jacob stood at the front with his wife and 2 sons. Henry read a short, simple note Mr. Leonard had written before he passed, a quiet acknowledgement of his past mistakes and a brief expression of gratitude for his final peace. Sonia sat at the side, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes calm. She was an observer, no longer a participant, yet she felt the completion of the circle. When it was over, Jacob walked up to her. Thank you, he said. Sonia nodded. He was waiting for you. I know. He didn't ask for anything except a goodbye. And he got it. Jacob looked back at the grave, then back at her. You gave him more than that. She gave a small, genuine smile. Maybe. But he gave me something, too. Jacob nodded, understanding without needing words. If you ever need anything. My garage is always open. Sonia smiled again, warmer this time. They shook hands, the son of the king and the quiet healer who had brokered the final peace. Then he walked away with his family. That evening, Sonia sat in the garden. The same bench Mr. Leonard had sat on the first day they stepped outside together. She closed her eyes and let the evening breeze touch her face. The list was complete. Every small wish, every quiet dream had been honored. He had walked outside, tasted the corn, watched the children play, been sung a lullaby, apologized to his son, held a hand, and died without fear. Sonia took the small, worn notebook from her bag. She traced the last lines of the full list, the ones that were not for the dying, but for the living. Forgive myself. Be remembered for something kind. She knew he had achieved both, not by his own power, but through the courage of his final honesty and the pure witness of others. Sonia looked up at the moon, now full and bright in the vast African sky. She wasn't the same girl who walked into that mansion weeks ago. She was stronger now, not because she saved a man's life, but because she helped a soul find peace. And in that, she found her own quiet, real meaning.